Hello, welcome to Starfish in the Desert, where we discuss British politics and have a laugh with the boys. I am your host, the presenter, and your two main hosts, I guess, are...
B and O.
I'm going to give a disclaimer off the start. We are very young individuals, and in this we will be sharing our views on politics. So do not take this as gospel. We are not experts. We are just giving our opinions on politics. This is the youth's view on the world currently, and thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy.
Well, of course, we're not representative of all the youth in the
Obviously not, but we're just giving.
We're just three random corners of the UK, really.
But we're all in the same city.
Well, I mean, that kind of limits it, I guess.
Okay,
but we do think outside the city. I would say
we think outside the box.
Okay, well,
if you see the world as a box.
B&O, you two are the main hosts.
I thought you were the main host.
I'm the presenter. You guys,
sure.
You guys are the host.
What's a presenter?
I asked the questions.
If you're a presenter, then present us with an idea.
Well, first, I think the audience would like to get to know. So
I can't see it. I can't see the idea.
Ben, shut up! You do not speak when I'm speaking, and when I tell you to shush, you shush.
Yeah, by the way, the B&O thing was a joke,
I know.
because B.O.
Yeah.
Because is that what's in your armpit?
No, because we're smelly.
Wow, you guys are giving me a lot to cover.
Alright, just...
Okay, Oscar, I'm going to ask you the first set of questions, then we'll go to Ben. Why are you choosing to make a political podcast knowing, how it may affect your future endeavours?
Can I answer truthfully without the gun to my head?
Yes.
Alright, okay, so... I don't know, pretty interesting. I like to talk about politics, that's about it, really. Okay. Got some pretty radical opinions, in my opinion. Okay. Probably other people think I'm quite extreme, but, travelling on, aren't I?
What party in the UK do you align yourself with most?
Well, I mean, I'd say the parties aren't very aligned to me, particularly. But if I were to vote for one, then I'd vote for either Labour or the Liberal Democrats.
Very interesting, thank you. Ben, why are you choosing to make this podcast knowing it may potentially hamper any future endeavours outside of politics?
You've got to be bold in your life. You've got one life to live. I'm not going to be sitting around with a little rubber bag over my head pretending I'm not existent. I'm going to say what I think because I'm a morally good person, and I think people will see that in this podcast.
Now I just imagine you as a flamingo with a big sign saying YOLO with a condom stretched over your head. I mean, you said rubber bag.
Wow, okay. This political podcast is after a brilliant fucking stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Ben, what political party in England do you align yourself with most?
I don't largely like any of the parties. I mean, they all give me a hard job.
If you had to choose one that aligns closest with your values, which one would you think it?
I don't like what they're doing at the moment, but traditionally the Tories would be the party that I'd align myself with most.
Okay. Where do you both stand on the Israel-Palestine conflict? Let's start with Ben, and we'll then go to Oscar after you've made your points.
I think it's immature to say you support Israel or Palestine. Who I support are the civilians on both teams. I support all the Israelis, all the Palestinians. I do not like the IDF. I do not like Hamas. Both of them, goodbye.
How are you a Tory supporter? What the heck? Right, yeah, I'd say exactly the same. So I don't support the authority in the area. I don't support the Israeli government. I don't support Hamas because, they're terrorists and far right. I mean, who cares about them? But the civilians, they definitely need extra aid and support in every way you can.
So neither of you think either one is a victim in any scenario? They are just...
I think they're a victim of themselves, really. Not the innocent civilians, of course, but the governments and the people in power are the problem.
I mean, they chose to be in power. They deserve to deal with the flak. Like, if Israel gets, called up for human rights, I mean...
Who chose to be in power?
Benjamin Netanyahu.
He chose himself to be in power.
Well, he got voted into power, but he chose to be there at the top of the country.
Okay.
He chose to be their supreme leader.
So, it's very interesting you say that, but I'm assuming you're both aware that Palestine has been facing persecution by the Israelis for decades, ever since, literally the 50s. There's been constant reports of this. So, is it not justified that the Palestinians fight back over the people who've been oppressing them for years?
Well, fight back to stay alive. That's what I'd say.
Well, don't do October the 7th. You shouldn't be killing innocent civilians because Israel's been killing you. That's not justifiable. It's just wrong.
But think about it from the perspective of Palestinian family. You've spent literally decades being persecuted, having your people shot at and murdered for no reason, and no justice ever brought to these people. Would you not then say that you can understand why the people support Hamas in that sense of they're seeing them as a saviour over the years of persecution they've had? Because Palestine, the lives they've taken, are literally pennies in comparison to, especially over the course of Palestine's harassment of Israel's harassment of Palestine.
I mean, I can see it. It's not right. I mean, Hamas is a terrorist organisation. I don't feel any empathy for anyone in it. But if the civilians, because they've obviously got propaganda, they've been in control of this place since around 2006. So I can see how, like, the Nazis managed to brainwash people in the 40s and 30s. Maybe Hamas has managed to do it.
Took us 7 minutes and Nazis have already been mentioned.
I thought we banned that.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
We did. We banned the fact.
Yeah, well, see, I just had to do this, but
course.
the thing is, the only reason Hamas wasn't chosen because of their stance on Israel specifically, it was more because they presented themselves as better than the previous party, Fatah, F-A-T-A-H, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but Fatah, they promised to cut down on corruption, which they did not do, and so the people turned to Hamas, mainly not because of their stance on Israel, but because they needed to cut down on corruption, which they haven't done. But yeah,
Very interesting take. Thank you. Okay, would you guys like to continue talking about this, or would you like to move on to the next points?
the next point.
Okay, the next point. Where do you stand on the Tory party's control over Britain?
Shouldn't happen.
Interesting. Why do you say this?
Oh, I don't like the Tories.
Well, yes, that's totally okay.
I mean,
you're supposed to expand.
I mean, we can expand, but we can start with the really big one. You know, the big pumpkin in the room. You know, I said pumpkin because I don't want to say elephant, but elephant in the room. Brexit. They have not delivered on any of that. I mean, they've not succeeded in anything, and it's just catastrophically awful decision.
How do you feel about the current growing statement that we are becoming a dictatorship under the Tories?
Well, I see it more as a elective dictatorship. You know, the how do I say it? Just executive power in a way. It's all centred on the Prime Minister himself. It's not really spread out. It's all condensed down, and it's becoming, as I say, an elective dictatorship where we elect a dictator for a couple of years and then he goes.
Yeah, but how can it be an elective dictatorship if they don't even have control over the party? There's mutinies every 5 seconds. He's by no means a dictator, Rishi Sunak.
Well, he does get to call an election whenever he wants.
Yeah, but that's the same with every party, so it's not like we're getting more dictatorial, is it?
Okay, here's something interesting. With all what you've said in mind, how do you feel about the fact that, you know how online voting is becoming a much bigger thing in the UK because of all the regulations they're putting in place? One, England has one of the lowest fraudulent voting rates on the planet, so there's no need for these extra precautions. But how do you feel now, because here's a fun fact for you, the Tory party owns almost every online voting thing on the planet. Do you not feel that gives them an unfair ability to just change the votes? Because of course it's all digital.
They wouldn't, because it would have to be transparent. Obviously, if we are going to expand our postal vote system, I don't like it because it does mean you can infiltrate. You can put fake ballots in with the rest of them. But I don't think the Tories are going to purposely rig it. They're not that morally bankrupt.
So Ben, with that in mind, how do you feel about the fact that the Tory party funds/owns roughly 80% of Britain's news outlets?
Well, they're allowed to. It's their right to, and thus, can we really stop them? I mean, it's a problem in every democracy, but...
Ironic.
Do you think it should be tackled?
No, because it's about freedom, and I think you should be free.
Well, how is that not freedom if they take away 30% and everyone else gets...
Well, because they've got the right. They've got the right to have it. If you're going to be better...
But should they have the right to have it?
Yeah, Capitalism's about being better than other people. If you're going to fail, if you're going to be some little broke person sitting in
Jacob.
a ditch and you've got no aspirations to be better, I mean, come on.
I'm going to let... I had to let
Okay,
him
I'd
finish.
like some intervention from the host here to help me with this.
Ben, shush for 5
What?
minutes.
That's a valid opinion. It is.
No, I would like...
So-
as
so-
the host, I'd like to speak.
I think we
that
need
was
to-
not the question I asked you, Ben. You answered a completely different question. Because think about... What I just asked, how do you feel about it? And you just went on a rant saying it's all okay, but... They are a political party, so owning
Okay.
such a large majority of the news space, are you saying that that does not give them any ability to control the public?
It does, but they've got the right to do that.
I'd like to take to the host now because I think we need to move the conversation on to our stances on socialism and capitalism. this really...
It is actually a very natural
It's
transition.
going to
yes.
come up.
Okay, so, Oscar, what is your opinion on capitalism versus socialism? Which one's better and why?
Socialism.
Why?
So capitalism, everything's a profit incentive. If everything's a profit incentive, then you're going to disregard any empathy or just, anything else. What's an example? Like if you privatise the healthcare system, right?
Horrible
are-
idea. I don't want to say my opinions, but that's a horrible idea.
Yeah. The doctors, if they were private, would be more inclined to avoid helping someone in serious need of help because, well, then you can charge more money.
That is
And
actually a brilliant point because we can
one-
see that with America, who have a for-profit a medical system. They have everything costs so much, and the doctors are practically useless.
And one significant example in I can't remember what it was in Rome, but one of the richest mans in the whole of all of known history was a Roman who owned his own private fire brigade, and he would turn up at the burning houses and then, just not put out the fire and just bargain with the person for better prices.
Very interesting opinion. So, do you feel capitalism has no place in the modern world?
Oh, I think we should certainly move on from it.
Do you feel it's overstayed its welcome?
Yes,
Very interesting. So,
it served its purpose.
So would you say that for the initial growth of a society, capitalism is very valuable and important, but once it reaches a certain point in its maturity, it should then forgo capitalism and move to socialism?
Yeah, capitalism has served its purpose. We'll move on.
So what would you say to someone who very rightly asked the question, well, why are no successful countries socialists?
Well, that's also subjective to opinion. Which country would you say are unsuccessful?
What, are you going to stand
This
up for
isn't-
China or something?
this is-
No, I'm not standing up for China. No.
This is not my opinion, I'm just simply asked the question as a viewer who may potentially have questions. That's my job.
So, Cuba, for example, would you see that as a successful socialist country?
You're supposed to ask me questions, but okay.
I mean, I'm bringing you into it.
Fine. Cuba, during the Cold War and stuff, before America's sanctions, socialism brought their literacy rates from 2% to 98%. That is objectively incredible, and it should be a big plus in the name of socialism. Cuba generally improved under socialism. The reason Cuba has fell and has become much worse over time is due to the American sanctions. So
Exactly. I share the same view.
But one thing we may bring up is Russia and China. They are the two most well-known socialist countries.
But Russia is not socialist.
You know, right, that what you're arguing for is Cuba's a one-party state, right?
Well, that's also you can examine that as well.
But it's factually a one-party
Ben.
state. The communists have dominated.
Okay, Ben, that's very interesting. I'd like to bring you into this because for some reason he's trying to drag me into this, which is not my job. But Ben, so what's your opinion on socialism and their impacts on society?
It's going to affect negatively on society.
Why?
If you bring socialism into a society, it's just going to stifle innovation.
Why?
You can see what happened at the USSR. They gave the worst players most of the money.
Why would
to
I
try
argue that the USSR was not communist?
They
They did not achieve.
I
they
would actually like to point this out. Stalin, who took over and became like the USSR head man, when his wife and daughter were killed, he said he lost all faith in humanity. And that's when you find Russia actually became more of a dictatorship and much closer to fascism than they
Yeah,
did.
but it was still a
socialism.
dictatorship under Lenin. It was never. These are the Bolsheviks and the radical communists.
The
They're
Soviet-
the ones that got kicked out.
The Soviet Union tried to achieve communism, but if you look at the definition of communism, which is a stateless, classless, moneyless society with common ownership of the means of production, they achieved none of that.
Yeah, but that's just unachievable. Like, when have you ever got any society to be properly
Cuba.
socialist?
Okay, let's settle down here. So Ben,
Look at Cuba.
okay, you have clearly very strong opinions on this. What evidence do you have for that communism doesn't, aside from Russia and China? Because we all know that they aren't true like socialists. They hide under the banner of socialism. But what evidence do you have for your opinions?
Well, capitalism has been working well for us since around the 1800s.
Yeah.
We've seen a massive increase in the standards of living with inventions like the washing machine, meaning people can go out, they can drive their cars. That wouldn't have happened under Stalin, would it?
Ben,
the invention of the car.
May I ask you a question? So after World War II, we elected in the Labour Party, which are much more socialist leaning. They're much more socialist leaning than they are for capitalism, and that's how we got the NHS. That's how England has reached the point is through that balance of capitalism through the Tories and socialism through the Labour. So are you saying that we should just never have had Labour and we should never have had the NHS and stuff like that? Because those are all fundamentally socialist ideas. Are you saying that it's actually a negative that we have those?
I mean, the NHS isn't working particularly well. I don't think what the Americans have got is a solution to it, but it's has the NHS ever been properly funded? Has it ever functioned properly?
Okay,
Yes.
Here's an interesting. That's a very interesting. Yes, for a brief time it was probably funded, but that's the point I'd like to bring up to you: is the NHS is not funded. The Tories purposely,
Under the Tories.
the Tories purposely do not fund it. But then you look at places like Germany, who have a very similar system, but you still pay. You have health insurance in Germany, but you do pay for your surgeries, but it's much on the cheaper end.
Cuba.
I don't know enough about Cuba to talk about them, but so that German system, are you saying that's the superior solution you're talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. What Germany, I think Canada have got, where you pay for your insurance.
Let's not bring
just-
Canada into this. They're in a really dark place right now.
I don't like Trudeau, but
But so you're saying that solution is far superior to the NHS. Why, in your opinion, is that much better than the NHS? If say that's in a perfect world, the NHS has perfect funding. In what world? Why is the German system better than the NHS?
because you're paying for your insurance, so it's obviously at least for the amount of people that are, you can adjust the prices and stuff like that. But I don't know how to explain it, but at least for the people who'll be using it, it will work properly.
But it was my understanding that through our taxes is what funds the NHS, and the taxes just not going to the NHS. So in a system where our taxes done for us, because Germany you have to do your tax, England is one of the three countries that do your taxes for you. The NHS essentially costs us nothing. So why is a free system not better than the system that in the end will still cost you more money?
Well, because you're forced into it. You can't.
Please explain.
Because you've got to pay your tax. If you don't pay your tax, the government comes up with you with a gun, says, pay your tax or you're going to jail.
That's the system we've all agreed upon.
Well, I've not agreed on it, obviously, because I wasn't there at the time.
That's what your forefathers agreed upon. They agreed that everyone's money...
Well, now we're getting to a thing where I'd side with Ben. You see, I
Really?
wouldn't say that I disagree with most hereditary systems. Like, we didn't agree to it. It requires our continual agreement.
Oh, so
to keep
you're
it going.
saying that every time a new generation is put in a position where they can speak for themselves.
So surely it would be more democratic if we have to uphold these things rather than just have them applied to us.
That's a really interesting perspective. So you saying that, say, once the majority of Gen Z have reached 20, because you can kind of tell when, so Gen Zs are between 2005 and 2011, something like that. That's the Gen Z kind of time frame for you, because most Gen Zs are turning 20 now. So are you saying that once a set of generations reached around 20 in the voting age, they should then choose whether they will have their taxes done for them, or then they do the American system where they either don't pay the taxes or...
Well, they should have enough autonomy in the democratic system to be able to review these systems that have already been put in place before they were alive, and then make decisions on their continuation.
So what you're suggesting, like an actual governmental overhaul where you go through every law and thing that we've previously agreed upon, and then...
No, but they should be, not that they continue, not as it wouldn't be a yearly occurrence, but more of a thing that they can be, how do I put it,
Well, you're suggesting they can be called upon, like how we can
more
request...
easily put through a review process and analysed and redone.
So are you talking like how when you can, if you collect enough signatures, you can force a general election? Are you suggesting something like that? If you collect enough signatures, people are forced to review all these laws and all things that we have.
What I'm saying
systems?
is more institutions that can be able to do this.
So are you suggesting like third-party monitoring of our governments then?
No.
That's still tyranny of the majority, though. You still don't get to opt out. I mean, if...
Well, I didn't specify, but yeah.
Okay, so Ben, so we've just heard Oscar's opinion. It's very interesting. What is your opinion on like what he's just said? What's your perspective?
I mean, it would certainly be better if we had a way that, you know, you could influence democracy more easily. I don't really like the idea of collecting signatures to force an election, because with that you've got... the party's already got its legitimacy for all the 5 years because they won the election.
It wouldn't have to be like you send in something to bring down the government, essentially, but it could be that once you voted for them, that was you putting your stake in the government, and you should have the right to pull that back.
So are you talking about the post-World War I German system of every party gets a number of... Is that kind of what you're getting at? That kind of system of everyone gets a section of the government and votes?
No. I don't know. Where would you get that from?
I think he's talking about PR.
Well, no. The reason
PR.
I'm bringing that up is because what you're suggesting, from my perspective, because of course I'm giving you questions, speaking on behalf of a viewer, is because that system that Germany had after post World War One was every party's votes. Because you're well aware of this, you're also very well aware of this. After every party's votes collected, you each get a number of seats. Are you suggesting something similar like that, where you've put your stake in the government, you then have a right to go to the government and go, we all kind of want to look at all these laws? Is that what you're suggesting, in a sense?
Could you go into more detail?
So like with that system the Germans had, it was every party got a little piece of the government, they all got to sit and vote. Are you suggesting we have a system where instead of just having the other parties have it, it's regular people have that? So you put your goodwill, say, into the Labour Party and they've gotten in.
It wouldn't. I get it now. So I wouldn't have that for the whole country. I think that's logistically impossible with today's technological standards. But maybe divide it between regions.
Like, so the constituency link. So we've reinvented what we've already got in our system.
No, but make it more powerful.
Okay, I would like to float this idea. So this is an idea I've personally seen. This is an idea I've thought about. This is not my opinion. This is just, again, something I've seen. But where would you both stand on, say, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, maybe even regular Ireland and England? We each elect our own, essentially, Prime Minister, and then they meet in the middle to discuss what happens to the entire country. So we have essentially that Arthur and the Round Table system for every different set of people with different ideas get to elect someone who represents them.
I feel like that would help, but it's not at the scale I would like.
What would help? It would help.
Because England is, I mean, you know this, is proportionally the largest population out of the UK. Having one Prime Minister for all of England, one for Wales, one for Scotland, one for Northern Ireland, even Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales combined wouldn't be able to beat the population of England, so it's just disproportionate, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, that's right. What about you, Ben?
I think Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland already get it a bit too good. I mean, we're bailing them out with Scotland's little private, I think it's prescriptions for free. I mean, that's paid for by English taxpayer money. You're just going to make the English further second-class citizens than they already are in this country.
You believe English people are second-class citizens? Why?
Well, Scotland...
It's a very aggressive take, Ben.
I would agree to paying taxes for somebody else's well-being. I think that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, they all, with the taxes they pay, that also funds our NHS. It funds everything. Like, we all chip in for each other.
Yeah, but we pay more tax and we also fund their additional benefits under their NHS.
So, are you saying because England is just larger, then we should get a majority say because we're just so much?
It's just fair.
To that, I just say, good, cool. We get to give them free stuff. Nice.
No, because we don't get it.
Well, we have access to it, do we not?
No, we don't, because Scotland's got more benefits than us. They've got free tuition fees, and that's bailed out by us.
Surely you should be going for more benefits for us as well, so we could copy Scotland.
No, take it out of them. We don't want free tuition fees.
Why take it away from them? That's just rude, isn't it?
In that case, so Ben, with what you're saying, so when Scotland was proposing separating from the UK entirely and becoming their own nation, so we'd be the United Kingdom, but Scotland's their own country and whatnot, were you in favour of that? Was that an idea that you were quite loved of? Because it sounds like kind of what you're saying. You wanted them to be completely separate from us.
I want them to either be fully integrated with us or to say goodbye and then you can deal with yourself.
Why do you use the word integrate? Because they do have a fundamentally different... They do have a different culture to us.
Integrate gives me more of a assimilate kind of vibe. To
I
it.
mean,
Because think about Scotland and Wales, we have all brash histories of one another. I mean, the Welsh and the Irish, I mean, we've halted them from speaking their own language for years. They have they naturally have disdains to us, and we have natural disdains to them for various reasons over the years and years of our existence. But Scotland and Wales do have a lot of fundamental differences in the people and how they treat each other and how they act. Like the accents alone are different enough. So why is it fair that we force them to give up them and they become part of us?
I never said that they have to give up their own language. I said they have to give up their additional benefits
No,
and their private parliament.
I'm using that as an example because it sounds to me like you're saying you use the word "come," like join us, but they are fundamentally different from us. So why is it fair that they should join
Well, then
us?
they can go. They can go there in a referendum. They decided they wanted to stay in the UK. They're obviously unionists, like I am, for example. But if you want to have your own additional benefits, you can't have it bailed out by English taxpayers because we are paying extra tax at the moment for you.
That's very interesting, Ben. But so by that logic, should then they not, with the taxes they pay towards the NHS, should that never come to us?
No, because we've got less benefits through the NHS than they have. Like, for example, Scotland get free prescriptions. They get, I believe, if you've got diabetes in Scotland, you get free injections. You don't get that over here.
Amazing.
Yeah, but we've got to bail it out for them. We've got to pay extra.
Well, why don't we pay extra for ourselves as well?
Genuinely, yeah. Why
don't
we take Scotland?
Why don't we take Scotland's model and put it on ours as well?
Well, because we've not got devolution, because England is currently the second-class citizens.
So
of
is the
UK.
problem in England, not in Scotland?
Why?
Yeah, it's in
why
England.
do you use the term second-class citizen?
Because they've got a second parliament, they get to vote on their own regional laws. Do we?
Should they not?
Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm saying that we should. We should divide England into 3, maybe Cornwall, maybe Wessex, maybe
Well,
East.
but why don't we divide it into 20?
I mean, yeah, that would be better.
So you're
Maybe even
suggesting
100.
so you're suggesting the American state system, where every little
No, the American state system is much worse than what we have. I'm saying that's the opposite way, Jacob. That's I think what.
I'm the host.
What the
Don't use
heck?
my name.
Well, we've already used our names, but yeah.
But okay, I'll cut it out. But anyway, so Ben, why do you have such strong feelings towards this? So like, take the rest of Ireland. Should they then, because they're naturally separate? Are you suggesting something very similar to that?
I'm saying you can have your own systems, but you're paying for it with your own money. If you can't afford it, you can't come to the English and say, you know what, do you want to give some of your tax money to us? You won't get it. And we'll spend it on our own benefits. We'll get free tuition. Then we can sit on our high horse and then say, oh, you haven't.
Okay, but that's very interesting. But we are the United Kingdom. By the very nation of the word united, we are working together. We help each other. Where we are helping them, will they surely not help us in other ways?
No, because we've not got the same power that they have. We've not got our own not Plaid Cymru, that's a party. We've not got, that's getting up to a good start. We've not got our own Holyrood. We've not got our own devolved parliament. We've got Westminster, as they like to say. Oh, Westminster's in London, but you've got control over Westminster. So we are not properly devolved. You're devolved. So why should we give you money?
Okay, Oscar, can you please break down what Ben said and give your own 2 cents on it?
Just devolve everything.
I mean, either go full devolution or kick them out.
Do you agree with what Ben is saying?
I wouldn't say kick them out. I'd say if Scotland wants, we're talking about Scotland here, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If we let Scotland declare independence, I'd allow it on the condition that citizenship is shared between Scotland and the United Kingdom.
I understand what you're saying.
As
I
well
would
as
agree with
open
that.
borders. And essentially buying property in each country, just most of that.
So it's still
shared.
the United Kingdom, but just at the government level we are separate. Is that what you're suggesting?
That could be a possibility.
So you're looking for a EU-like system then?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
What
it
did we
did
just
work
leave?
pretty damn well.
What did we just leave?
Huh?
What did we just leave?
The EU, which was a terrible
A
decision.
great decision. We just
Okay,
not
Ben,
capitalised on it.
So what? Name one thing that was a good decision about leaving the EU.
Well, the Tories have decided to go the wrong way. So we left the EU and they've decided, you know what, let's stop immigrants from entering the country. What we were supposed to do was deregulate the economy. Let employers get away with more. It means they're going to be more attracted to
Hold
the
on,
UK.
you said let employers get away with more. Get away with what?
I'm not going full Victorian. We're not having
Okay,
child
you just-
labour.
Cease. The term "get away with" indicates that it's wrong.
It's not
It
wrong.
indicates in your own mind that you think it's wrong, but you're saying it anyway.
Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it is wrong, but I think.
Wait, you don't think murdering Victorian children is wrong?
I said you wouldn't
Okay, yeah,
be able to
sorry, I
do-
should have said that. That was
Okay.
what you said.
Order.
Next topic.
Okay. Next. We
Immigration.
did go a bit into the weeds in that one, but you guys are so passionate about it.
Immigration.
Okay, we can.
We talk about
we could go into immigration. Oscar, what are your current views on immigration? Into the- into the UK?
100%. Just take them all, every single one.
Oh.
All the immigrants, all of them.
So, I'm sure you're very well aware when we did leave the EU and we harshened down on immigration. Are you aware?
So I'm a bit confused about that because I would say I would stay in the European Union because of immigration because I think immigrants benefit the country.
Well, the reason
But
we
then-
left the EU is rather stupid and is actually
to cut down on immigrants. But
Yeah.
the problem was it's kind of backwards really. We tried to cut down on the amount of immigrants entering the UK, but it actually increased. So in a way, I kind of support it because more immigrants is always nice.
So I'm sure you're well aware, but the NHS originally, its system kind of ran on immigrants. Immigrants would get their work visas, they come here and they would learn nursing and
Especially,
and they'd go back to their home countries and
especially-
have a system of doctors.
Especially Portuguese doctors were extremely experienced in the
Yes,
NHS.
yes. So, do you believe that us leaving the EU and having to cut back on, of course, all the legal immigrants, especially on how they can get work visas and learning visas and student visas, even, do you feel that is also part of the reason NHS is suffering so much recently?
Yes.
Okay, Ben, what about you? Well, you're
Let them in. I mean, we're a country built on immigrants. We, like the Saxons, which we like to say are the native Brits. They came over from Germany. The Celts, they
Fun
crossed over
fact,
from a
Britain and
language.
Germany for a long time literally had the same language. It was neither English nor German. We just had the same language.
Exactly. So we're a country built on immigrants. We're a melting pot. So
I mean,
let more
in reality, every country is just the whole world is a melting pot. I mean, if you want to take it that far, I mean, why do we have borders?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going through the historical route, England's existence, we existed for a very short time before other people began invading and coming over here. We spent very little time as just what was left on the island. So, do you both agree that immigrants are incredibly important to the function of this nation?
Vital.
We've got an ageing population. We need immigrants to keep our services running. If we don't let anyone in, quite frankly, we're all going to die on our little island because we cannot continue. We cannot continue with this.
So do you feel that when we left the EU and immigration became more difficult, do you think we should have made it simpler to get visas, work and student visas, to combat that issue?
I mean, personally, I'm in favour of world citizenship, so I think that pretty much explains everything. But yeah,
But do you understand why most governments have issue with world citizenship and stuff like that? I mean, in Europe, you can get a train from France to Germany and there'll be no problem.
understand there's
But a lot of nations do struggle specifically with the idea of just anyone coming into the home. Most Asian countries, for instance, have a lot of issues with tourism because they feel it deprives from their own culture.
I
Do you
understand
agree with
there's-
that?
I understand there's a kind of security risk element and a sort of the idea that it's just going to erode, especially
Poland
I
is
got 2 points. So one is the security risk, and one is the culture risk. I think both points are absolutely wrong, but I'm going to go into that. So, in terms of culture, many people fear that just British culture will be eroded away entirely, but I don't agree with that. I think that, as Ben said, there's so many immigrants coming in. Immigration kind of allows the best of all cultures to rise to the top in terms of the melting pot of cultures. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you look in America, like all the best elements of all European and all across the world cultures just rise to the top.
Well, it's very much like that thing. All American food is literally just everyone else's food.
It's just the best foods gets put to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, you might not like McDonald's, but yeah.
Yeah, but so
It's very nice. I mean,
here's a point. Poland, in particular, has very strict immigration laws. They refuse to take Muslims, for instance, right now.
That brings me on to my second point about security. So a lot of countries, especially right-wing populist
I think the
countries-
Netherlands is going that way.
Yeah, the Netherlands is going that way as well. Their sort of thing is that, oh no, Islam is going to come and ruin everything in our country.
Which religion is a very interesting
this
issue
is
when you
a-
bring that up, and especially politics. It has a very important place in politics.
The
religion.
genuine slur I've heard is the Muzzies are going to come and invade
Yeah,
our
I
country.
do. That is
Like,
horrific.
that's horrific language.
But So I think that takes us on to the next point. Religion. Where do you both stand on the expansion of these religious beliefs? Because as I'm sure you're both aware, England's population of Christians is very much in decline, and Muslims and various other religions are on the rise. Where do you stand on that?
Go secular. We should be a secular society. It's 2024. I was going to say 2023 then.
Yeah, you're not quite there in the brain yet, is it?
That's why there was a little delay. But it's 2024. Nearly said 2023 again. But we shouldn't be a Christian state. Quite frankly, it's getting towards the point where a majority of the population by the end of the century is not going to be Christian. So
embedding it into our political system is a bit flawed.
Yeah, it's
by having
discriminatory.
a god king rule over us seems a bit silly by this point.
I think we should get rid of the monarchy. But
Same.
I understand, but what would you say to someone whose point against the monarchy, for instance, is the monarchy actually does bring relatively decent revenue to this country?
It doesn't.
I would say it does not. They'd say, conservatives and Tories, they bring this up a lot. They say it brings up more in tourism. It's like, oh yeah, it brings loads in tourism. You can't actually calculate how much specifically Buckingham Palace brings into the country in tourism.
And there is then the argument you can make, if the monarchs were no longer a thing, then you could just have them all explore Buckingham Palace.
An excellent counter-argument to this, which I got it from I watched a video about it, is that if you look at France, for example, their Palace of Versailles brings in 3 million tourists or something actually I probably should Google that, but it might not be 3 million, but it's a lot more than in the UK, because the UK Buckingham Palace brings in around 500,000 a year.
But okay, but how do you feel about the fact that the monarchy is a large part of British culture, especially for
It's
all of
not.
our existence?
I would say it isn't. I'd say most, especially young UK citizens, are disinterested with the monarchy. I genuinely have no clue who Princess Diana is. I don't know.
I
forget
all their names. To be honest, I forget all their names.
I've heard of Prince Andrew. I think
Is he the ginger one?
He's
Is he the ginger one?
I know he did. I know he.
Or is that the pedo?
No, Harry's ginger. He's the pedophile.
He's the pedo.
Yeah.
You've just proved your point. You have just proved your point. None of us know any of their bloody names.
We don't know who they are. I know
it's King Charles.
I only know that there's Charlie Boy up there, and one day he's just
massive sausage fingers.
Don't give it long. He's going to be buried with his mother. There's not much you can do. There's just hereditary.
Where do you stand on the statement that Queen Elizabeth was the last of the important monarchy?
Well, she shouldn't have been the monarch to begin with. But
I say none of the monarchs were that important.
Agreed.
They could have been replaced easily.
They're literally our old tyrannical family. Is Stalin a big part of Russian culture? Is he an essential pillar? No. They're our old tyrannical family. Look at Henry VIII. Was he good? He's their ancestor.
Yeah,
he's who they evolved from. We should get rid of them.
There's no point in having them.
Well, you bring up Russia and various things like that, but they are very big parts of their schooling and learning culture. You go German schools, they talk extensively about Hitler in specifically. To my knowledge, this was a while ago. I may be wrong. It may have changed. But they do talk about Hitler in specifics a lot. I believe Russia does talk about Stalin a lot. They use them as examples of their history and how things have changed and how very quickly bad things can happen from good ideas.
Well, Putin loves Stalin, so I don't think he's being taught negatively in Russian schools.
Putin is really
he's an interesting character.
I'd say he's definitely populist. That seems.
So where do you both stand on the Russia-Ukraine war, especially with all the recent stuff about Ukraine's corruption over the funding that everyone's been saying?
I stand with the people, because you shouldn't be able to, Ukraine, no one's called them out on this, but you shouldn't be able to conscript your population and say, all men, you can stay behind. You've got to fight for your country you didn't choose and die for them. Meanwhile, Russia,
I believe it was all men over the age of 18 had to remain in Ukraine.
Still, that's stupid and it's tyrannical. Meanwhile, Russia's picking on countries that are democratic. They've got more legitimacy than Putin does, and he's rolling in saying, it used to be part of us, so we've got the right to go take you again. It's like us going to India and doing that. It's just stupid.
I share all the same points as Ben. It's just that I feel that we can't let Ukraine fall to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
To let a more democratic state fall to a more tyrannical state It's just a bad message for the whole world. For the whole world.
Okay, so I'd like to make some interesting points. So Russia, I'm sure you both are aware, Russia is currently emptying all their war museums because they've just run out of military weapons.
Wow.
Yeah, I see
I've heard that.
that makes it my point even worse.
And also they're wearing cardboard. Like they captured some Russian soldiers and they found the body armor they were wearing was just compressed cardboard.
It's kind of an international embarrassment that we can't kick out the Russians at this point.
That is just due to the amount of Russians that they're sending.
North Korea is giving more support to Russia than Germany can. It's crazy.
Currently the West has used Ukraine as a testing ground for like America specifically has used Ukraine as a testing ground for all their latest weapons. They shot down. Are you aware of the Russian missile that was believed to be unable to be shot down?
Mm-hmm.
And they shot it down.
Yes,
Yeah.
But Ukraine has so we agreed at the end of the when USSR collapsed, we agreed that the Iron Curtain that was set up originally, we agreed that those countries would never join the it was not the EU, it was NATO, because Russia wanted that separation between Europe and them, which is completely understandable. Europe fights a lot. Do you believe that it was fine for us later to then go to these countries, do you want to join NATO? And a lot of them have joined NATO. Ukraine was the last one trying to join NATO. So do you understand why potentially Putin was so nervous and why he may have taken that as a reason to invade? There's not a form of justification.
I'd say he is definitely nervous, but because of his own position. He doesn't want to lose his own power over his own country because NATO poses a threat to invade the Russian people, yes, but he doesn't care about those. He cares about the supporters that keep him in
His
power.
oligarchs.
Where do you stand about the portions of Ukraine? Because there was a large section of Ukraine who identified with Russia.
Let them join.
Russians. Where do you stand on Ukraine refusing to let them join Russia? All that stuff. Where do you stand on them not being allowed to join who they believe are their people?
What gives you the right to keep them as yours? If they want to join Russia, let them go.
I believe it was roughly not quite a third.
I think they should let them move to Russia if they please, but not just give up their state to Russia.
Well, what's Ukraine's right to have that state over Russia? I know they're a tyranny. I'm not sticking up for Russia here, but if the people want to be part of Russia, I mean, let them. You can't. It's like us with Scotland. We gave them a referendum. Come on, Ukraine, give them a referendum. I know you can't now because you screwed up badly.
There was a forced referendum, which was way worse.
Yeah, that's from Russia. So. Exactly, it happens anyway.
Well, there are no wrong opinions here. That's the point. This is a place.
Wrong opinion.
Well, there may be. I mean, we're not getting into that. But I'm the presenter. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. But I'm just here to present questions with it, with that meant to lead to interesting conversations. So, we've kind of exhausted all the major topics, and that was really quick. Actually,
Should we do my little
efficient.
protesters topic then?
No.
Well, you said at the start.
Fine,
that would be good filler.
Fine, we'll go on to this topic because Ben's really passionate about this. Where do you stand on the eco-protesters in England? The people who are stopping football games and throwing paint on ancient paintings.
I mean, sure, raise awareness.
Do you believe it's the right way to do it though?
I think there are more effective ways. I mean, it's better than nothing, right?
Well, that's the point. What about you, Ben?
Do a normal protest. I mean, we're not allowed to do it now because the Conservatives stopped us, but march down the streets, hold up some placards, don't sit in the middle of the road, don't
Why
sit
do you like the
beside of a
Conservatives then if
racetrack.
they stop you from
Well, because
protesting?
what are the other parties bringing us?
Okay, so here's a question: How would you respond to the statement that the Labour Party specifically has been becoming more right wing to try and steal Tory voters? Where would you stand on the statement?
They have. I don't think they're going to steal voters through policy because I believe the voters would have stayed for the Conservatives if it were not for the fact that they're having an internal meltdown. They're imploding at the moment.
So, Ben, do you agree that the Liberal Democrats have become what Labour used to be? Would you agree with that statement?
No, they're still. I think they're still a bit to the right of the Labour Party.
Okay, and what is your opinion on the Greens Party? It is the smallest party, but it is arguably the most left-wing
I think I
party.
said something at the start that I'd vote for Labour or the Lib Dem. Yeah, I'd also vote for Green.
I would.
Because they are arguably the most left-wing party we have left, but they are the smallest. Why do you believe that they are the smallest?
They're rubbish.
But why? What about their policies make them so undesirable?
Well, have you heard of their £2? I think it's £2 bus fare for anyone under. I think it's something like 24. That would cost so much tax. I mean, tax would.
But Blue Star is currently already doing that for everyone.
Yeah, but that's Blue Star, so it's not taxpayer funded, is it?
But if they but if they mandated by law that all buses must be like £2 for anyone under 24, would that then not just be on the bus company?
Sounds a bit like Stalin to me.
Or would they? Or do you believe that if they did mandate it, that they would pay the difference for the bus companies?
Well, let's forget about the fact that it's sort of a bit wrong to force a bus company to do your bidding. But I just don't like it. It's going to skyrocket tax. They also want to invest more money into green policies, which good idea, but I don't really want to have to pay 50 million in tax.
Well, that's very interesting.
Now we're getting onto the issue of privatisation versus national.
Well, this is
privatisation.
This is a very interesting topic, especially on green stuff, because England's one of the most green countries on the planet. I believe it's upwards of 50% of our electricity is completely green and carbon neutral, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty good, but it's not good enough.
Well, but we are one of the best, and we are gradually improving, even without the need for the Green Party, who are just literally in their name. But so, do you believe England should be doing more, or do you believe it should all be privatised and everyone else should be doing it?
Oh,
I think it should be down more to the individual companies to deal with it, because they will. When it gets down to it, it's not profitable to burn the planet, so they will switch.
Oh right, okay.
I mean, Elon's trying to get us to Mars, so you know.
Right. So it's not profitable to burn the planet.
I mean,
in their lifetime.
Well, they've got to switch because we're running out of oil. So ExxonMobil, even they've been switching to greener fuel sources.
Okay. But that's the thing though, they will always go with the easiest option that benefits them the most.
No, but the consumers have a say. If the consumers...
Do they really then? What if there's a monopoly then? What do you do then? Do you just go switch to...
Well, there's not an oil monopoly, is there? I can go, if ExxonMobil...
Well, Ben, actually, there is, like, all the oil companies are owned by, like, 3 people.
Yeah,
it's legit, like, 3 people that own it.
It's their right to do so.
I know, but, like, does that not indicate that there is, in fact, a monopoly?
Well... Maybe there's still choice between 3 companies, so that is a choice.
All 3 companies with the same.
Well, make your own company.
3 companies. That...
Go make your own company if you're so passionate.
Well, so make your own company, right? So you want to set up an oil company, right? So what do you do?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm not a person who wants to
set up your own company, then I don't know.
I'm not. Well, I'm not a person. I said you go set up your own company.
I don't know how to set up an oil company.
Well, you don't want to then. Look into it. There's the internet, the World Wide Web. It's the 21st century. We're not in the 1920s now, are we?
Actually, that is a point. We are not in the 1920s anymore. We're starting an oil company or any other company was much, much simpler because basically no one was doing anything. Like, that's the argument. We are in a place where everything is very much oversaturated. So are you saying that people should just push through it, or they should not just find other alternatives? Like, what is your view on the oversaturation of business and market?
Well, it's part of the game. Just be better, and eventually the consumers will move to you.
But do you not believe that due to the, like, because I think we can all relatively agree that basically all companies have remained the same for about 20 odd years now.
Ben, the flaw in your argument is that there are 2 ways to be better than other companies. One is, just improve your product, make it cheaper for consumers, and the other is to play dirty and bribe politicians.
That's fine.
But everyone's already doing the second one.
Just pause there.
I mean,
I'm gonna no.
Just let the awkward silence settle in there.
I mean,
bribe politicians.
I don't
fine.
have opinions. You
The
guys
impetus-
You do have opinions, Jacob.
I'm not allowed to have opinions.
the impetus isn't on the individual who's bribing them. It should be. I'm a bit conflicted on this issue because
wow.
we're balancing your right to give people money to do as you say, but also the right to have a free and fair democracy. So I think it should be about the individual politician. Do you want to be bribed? Do you want to be a sort of person who is easy to corrupt, or do you want to be someone who's got a backbone?
The thing is, that's not democratic because nobody has a say in what a politician.
Well, do we ever say anyway?
So Ben, would you?
What?
So Ben,
do we ever say anyway?
Ben, would you be open to the idea of politicians, as was pointed out earlier, having every sponsor, every lobbyist on a pin on their vest whenever they're doing anything? Would you agree with that idea of, so you can see exactly who is behind your politician? So say we had Richie Sunak, he would have the banks and all that stuff on his vest, and anyone else would be lobbying him. Would you agree with that as an idea?
I'm just looking something up. I know that we have got some sort of a Transparency Act, which means you do have to know where all the party funding's coming from. The lobbyist, I think if you're getting
I believe lobbying is a way around that act, is it not?
No, lobbying isn't bribery. Lobbying is just
Well, lobbying is legal bribery.
no, because
It
you're not
is.
giving.
You
you're
don't
not-
have opinions, but I mean,
You're
I'm
not-
stating a simple fact. Like
You're
it's-
not giving money to the politicians, so it's not bribery. It's you telling them, maybe you should follow this policy.
you're paying to have dinner with them essentially.
Well,
You're
maybe
paying
you
for-
could
you're-
put some money
you're
into their
paying for a
party, and that will
suggestion.
encourage them, won't it? Go put your own money in the Green Party then, if you love them so much.
No, so I'm not allowed to
didn't
have
say I
opinions,
love
but
them
what
so
I'm
much.
stating is a simple fact that lobbying is basically called a legal way of.
No,
just
but you
weighing
can't. It's not.
everything.
You're not handing a politician a £10 note saying "do as I say." What you may have put money into the party beforehand, but that does not guarantee the politician has to do what you say.
That is a very
That's
true
the
statement,
difference.
but do you not feel it would influence them in any way? Say you were a politician.
Well, it
so-
would influence them, yes. That's the way that citizens can make a difference. I can go lobby my local MP if I want. Should I not be able to do that?
So you paying a fiver and a packet of crisps to your local MP? Do you really think that's going to make a difference between
Well, I can't. Well,
a
that would be
billionaire
illegal. That would be
bribing?
illegal. I'd get arrested if I did that. I could put money into Paul Holmes'
Yeah,
party.
exactly. Because you're a regular citizen, you don't have any privilege.
No, I could
status.
put money into Paul Holmes' party. That would be perfectly legal, and maybe then he'd be a bit more persuaded to do as I said. But I mean, I can write a letter to him, and he will have to read it. He'll have to respond.
Ben, that's
Or
a
he
very,
just
that's a
gets
very
sacked, okay.
interesting point, but most normal people, like lobbying, can basically only be done by businesses now because England is in a cost of living crisis. The planet's in a cost of living crisis. No one can afford
Caused
their
by
basic
capitalism.
essentials. No one can afford their basic essentials. So how can you say that's a fair system if most of the population is completely cut off from that ability to lobby, essentially?
The best of the best will push through. So
The richest of the richest will push through.
yes, so you can become. You
There's a
can,
lot of
the
nepotism babies.
Being rich and being the best they're not equal to each other.
no, they are the same thing because you've been the best at capitalism. if you
So
are rich.
are you saying Logan Paul's the
Well, that's
best
not-
because his company's
Well,
worth
he's
$1
the
billion?
best at his given field because he's done very well. I believe he's got Prime sponsorship. He may be part owns Prime. I don't know.
He's one of the 6 owners of Prime.
So yeah, he's been very successful. He is the best in his field.
But also, he filmed people dying.
I know.
He's like an
It
evil
doesn't mean
man.
he's a good person, but he's the best at his given field. If I was a super talent like Elon Musk, I would become an incredibly rich person. Like, that's just a fact because I'd be able to put the effort in.
Okay.
Maybe a bit of luck.
So if you started from scratch as Elon Musk, I mean, doesn't you start?
Can't you start from scratch now?
But Elon
I
Musk.
could, yeah,
The
I
fact
know.
is that Elon Musk didn't start from scratch, did he?
His father owned an emerald mine.
Exactly. Like,
But he's got his advantages.
So,
He's allowed to exploit them. Let's-
Elon's a very interesting case because he has done some of his own stuff, but you look
well,
at
if you're not given an advantage to compare to those people, then how are you supposed to compete if you're not given that advantage to start with?
be better.
Be better. Well, you can't be better.
Okay. Elon is a particularly interesting case you're bringing up because his father did own an emerald mine, and everything he did is impressive because he did it on his own in quotes. But you look at his life and you look at actually the specifics of how he did things, you then get to an interesting point of did he really do everything? Like you look at what he did with PayPal, most of what he did,
Yeah, he had a team around him. You can't.
he got
do everything by
interns to do
yourself.
it for him.
Yeah, that's his right. He should
He
be
didn't
able to do that.
but
Well, just pay
but
people to
he
do
didn't
stuff
actually,
for him.
But my point is, he didn't actually do most of what he says he's done. He
Exactly.
just piggybacked off that.
That's
So
what's
in your
irrelevant.
opi-
He's good at piggybacking.
No,
so-
but I'm saying, in your opinion, does that make him the best at what he does? Because he's
Yes.
technically done nothing.
Yes, because he's the richest man alive. So he is objectively.
He should not be credited as being the
I mean,
founder
he's
of
also
Tesla.
he's also
He wasn't.
he's tanked Twitter's stocks.
He's debatably made it a better, nicer place. I mean, is
This
everything
just-
about money?
Okay, right.
Well,
Can we go to a new topic? Because this is obviously going nowhere.
This is going to end in
This is-
a fist fight where Oscar beats you up.
I'd
going
I'd
nowhere.
win an armed combat.
No, you would not. I've sparred with Oscar over the years. He is very damn good.
This is not good.
I'm very rusty, but
Right, let's
let's
bring
move
up.
on. Let's round it off.
We've
round it off.
done lots of topics. We need what's another topic?
There's a lot. We've done a lot of the big topics. Now we're getting into kind of the smaller topics that are equally as
Smaller
important.
niche topics.
Okay, Oscar, in your opinion, what is the best way to solve the current cost of living crisis? From your perspective as a teenager growing up in this existence in life, of course we grew up in a village, so it's natural we have a different experience with all this stuff versus someone who lives in a city. But what is your opinion on how we fix this?
Well, I mean, where do you start? Really, there's systemic problems.
Where do you believe
I-
the base of the issue starts?
I'm I'm generally confused about that. I wouldn't know where to start with problems like. I don't know where the best, most efficient place.
Do you believe?
start would
Okay,
be.
here's a bit more of a targeted question. Do you believe the government should assist its poorer citizens much more than it already does?
Yes.
Interesting. Why?
Well, I mean, if you assist your poorer citizens, you gave them the ability to make money on their own. You give them that ladder to reach the apple. You give them that ability to actually function as a human being.
That is a very, very interesting way of looking at it. It's very, very interesting. But what about those people who are at the bottom, not because they've not had handouts, but because they just are at the bottom because that's just who they are? It's like they've failed every time they've done anything, they've given up.
Let them fail.
Would you say the government should still support
Is
them?
that a real human being, though?
I don't know. I'm just simply asking you a targeted question.
Would a real person deliberately fail at every occasion?
I'm not saying deliberately. I'm saying someone who has failed and has at this point in their life given up. Should they then continue to receive support because they've chosen to give up?
Well, baseline level.
They should continue to receive. They should continue to receive.
Really, even if they've given up and they're just blowing all their money on booze and stuff. I know this is very odd.
The amount of people there would be very minimal in an optimal society. It's just
We use the word optimal society. Do you believe England is an optimal society?
no. So in terms of utopia, do you think
We're on the other end.
I mean, like
We're not too far away from
you
it.
should always push. You should always push towards.
Oscar's
it.
about to throw a chair at you, Ben.
Well, I mean, if you get the right people in power.
Well, it depends on your your definition of utopia. What is your definition of utopia?
What I do to make this country
No,
utopia.
I'm asking what your definition of utopia
my
is.
definition of utopia is really
Because
funny.
that's very different. I'm not asking what you do to fix it. I'm asking what your definition is.
Very deregulated economy, low tax as possible, and as much freedom as humanly comprehensible.
My ideal utopia is a stateless, classless, moneyless society with common ownership of the means of production.
That's fascism.
That's communism.
Yeah,
That's
fascism's
opposite
the
of
other end.
fascism.
Well,
Fascism's at the other end.
Horseshoe theory, both ends end up in the same place,
Horseshoe
don't they?
theory. Horseshoe theory is complete rubbish.
Well, I mean, in theory, if you do go far enough, it does look.
Exactly! I'm right!
No, I'm saying it looks like. I'm not saying it is. I mean,
Well,
I wouldn't.
unfortunately
I
for
wouldn't
you-
say Hitler was a communist.
Well, he worked with Stalin, didn't he?
Unfortunately, the political spectrum isn't as 2D as you think. So it's.
I'm getting to politics. I have no opinions. I'm not allowed to have an opinion.
No, chime in.
I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm the presenter. You're the
Anyway,
host.
where were we?
Anyway, yes. So we were talking about how you would, in theory, start to try and fix it. What is the biggest problem that you think is causing the cost of living crisis? What do you think is the big thing?
Well, apart from capitalism generally,
No.
It's my point.
It's his,
my turn
he's
to talk.
speaking. You do not speak.
I'd say
Please
probably to stop cost of living, housing in general. I mean, house prices are ridiculously high right now. Construction of more housing, better healthcare service would definitely help.
You are a big proprietor of the belief that if there is just more housing, then it forces the housing market down. You are a big believer in that, as far as I'm aware.
I mean, my opinion has changed slightly since then. I mean, there's a bit of flaws in that, but
Yeah.
more houses generally just would really help, and like relying on private services to build houses is
What
just
scale
a
of the
death
houses?
sentence.
Because when most people think new houses being built, they think of, we can give a great example, Borley Green. The houses there, they are the new houses. No one can afford them. So are you talking houses in that style? Are you talking like we've really scaled back the housing so that when we build these smaller houses, people can actually afford them up front, and it will drag the housing prices down with them?
Lots of affordable houses that provide all the essential services, well heated.
So would
How are we
well
going to
made
pay for it?
by taxing the rich? I mean, what else do you
Would-
think I was
would-
going to
How,
say?
they're going to leave the country then, aren't they?
would so Oscar would
Force them to
would
stay
you
They will.
would you be in agreement if the government went, we're going to build 16% more flats and like housing flats so more people can have roofs over their head? Would you agree with that if the government said we're going to 16% more across the entirety of the UK?
Yeah.
Would you? Okay, you would agree with that. Ben, you very clearly had a strong opinion. The fact you had to burst over Oscar there, but what is your biggest issue with that idea?
If I was Jeff Bezos, let's pretend I am. For some reason,
Your hair looks great, Bezos.
I know. I
You
put a
did-
nice cream on it.
I was going to say, you did chime in earlier saying, "Oh, what if the rich just leave the country?" Oh, well,
Why are they here
Well,
then?
in my worldview, I'd see the whole world as having this same thing. So it
Also
doesn't-
forcing them into a corner, essentially.
No. Just this policy, just building more houses generally across the whole world.
So
But we can't do that's unrealistic. We can't do that. We've got control.
I thought we were
over
talking
Britain.
about. I thought we were talking about optimal situations.
I thought we were talking. Okay, optimal situation. Let me think. Deregulate the economy. That
Why?
will bring in more business, more big business. Look at what China did. They got more businesses into the economy. If we deregulate, we're going to look like the sort of place where the Apples, the Teslas, the Tesco's of the world want to come set up their base.
Okay, so here's a question, man. You bring up China's point, but China is currently facing a massive issue because of the policies that they have, and it has caused a massive population decline. They're mostly
Well,
old
that's the
people now.
one-child policy. That's not our. That we're not following that
I know,
policy. We're
I know,
deregulating.
I know, but I'll bring up is it's not just the one-child policy that brought China to this. It's the fact that when they brought in that policy, they were going through that massive, what you just they were literally going through that, and that cut the amount of people having kids in the first place, and the one-child policy then dropped it as well. So are you saying that England would be completely fine if they went through that same kind of drop in people?
We wouldn't, because we're already a high-income country. What happened to them is they transferred from a low-income country to a newly emerging economy.
Oh, so you believe it's that could cause that to
Yeah,
happen?
that's what caused it. If you look at the trends, newly emerging economies often have got a lot lower birth weight rates than the low-income countries. in the
And
world.
that combined with one-child policy, you believe that's what's caused all this problem now?
Yeah.
So
There is one way to fix all the problems that have been caused by the one-child policy.
Well, they've removed the one-child policy now.
I mean, but because the damage is going to last for decades, maybe even a century.
Well, one issue they've
Let
had,
immigrants in.
Exactly.
One issue they've had is the fact that they have revoked the one-child policy, but the answer is they have such a toxic work culture that people are just straight up too tired to even procreate and have kids.
Exactly. That's why I need to go further.
But they do not want immigrants, and it's a part of their culture. They are starting to allow immigrants in because they just require them, but they have a lot of strict requirements around immigration. So
Yeah, I wouldn't say.
how would you tackle that at a kind of social level where the people themselves have issues with immigrants? How would you tackle that?
Well, I mean, the main reason people don't like immigrants is because they've been provided by something else to blame, like, oh, immigrants are going to take all our jobs. Oh, they'll increase crime rate and all
Donald
that
Trump.
gibberish. Yeah.
So it's very much what Poland gave as a reason for not allowing certain immigrants in.
Yeah.
Very much that point. Also, Ben, you look like a supervillain a little earlier. I think you have something you want to say.
I mean, let me think. Did I have something to say, or was I just gonna let in as many as possible? Basically, throw down the barrier of entry, let in as many immigrants as possible. I completely forgot what I was actually going to say. I had a point about 5 seconds ago, but it flew out my brain as
Yeah,
soon as
we've all
Jacob
been
talked to
there.
me. My
Jacob
hair's.
has that way of talking.
I mean, it's literally like I'm in front of a fan. All the ideas are flying out backwards.
Backwards thinking, yeah. That's a key word.
Exactly. I don't backwardsly think, though. I think forwardly.
In your opinion.
In my opinion, but that would only be in your opinion
Okay.
that I think backwardsly.
Is there
In your opinion,
here's a
like,
question
in
for
your
both of you. Is there any country that is currently like right now that you think England could benefit from if we followed some of the trends they're going on? Is there any
I mean,
country that you guys particularly think is in a really good place?
Victorian
it's
England.
It's not fully.
I meant currently, Ben. Not empires. Like
No,
what
I'm
we
not
have
talking
now.
about the empire. They're the less regulated economy.
I know,
That's
but I'm
good.
talking about like
USA?
what countries we have around right now that you think England should be following their footsteps in because they are in a brilliant place right now. What is there any
I
countries
mean,
you feel
they're not in a brilliant place, but they're
going in a brilliant place?
USA.
They've got the conditions to go in a brilliant place, but well, yeah, the USA does have really good conditions. To
But
go in really
there's a
good
lot of
place, but they're-
systemic problems with the
No,
US.
but they've got a
terms
less
of-
regulated economy. You can put more things in the food there. It's just a freer society.
Yeah, and they
than
have
we've got.
do have a large health issues due to the unregulations.
Yeah, but
of
that's
the
about
food.
personal
Are they
choice.
really free though?
Well, they're not free. No one's free.
Well,
None of these countries
But
are
Ben,
free.
you say it's personal choice,
Well,
but
I'd say the Zapatistas are quite free, you know.
but Ben, you bring up the American food. You say they have a choice. They really don't. The American, roughly 80% of all American meats specifically are genetically altered and pestified in horrible ways. Like you look at Britain at the moment, we still are under the old EU food laws where we have some of the safest food on the planet, and that's also down to British farmers being so prideful in their work. America doesn't have that.
Well, if our farmers are so prideful, if you lift the regulations, surely they'd stay
They would for a while, but you will have farmers who will then go,
And
you
that's
know
their
what,
right.
fuck it.
That's their right. And the population of this country obviously values good food. We've literally got free range hens written on our eggs. So we clearly care about ethics. We clearly care about getting good, properly done
So
food.
you believe England would be completely fine if we lifted the regulations?
Yes, because the people would choose to follow that pathway.
But by the
Can they always choose though? The thing.
Well, in the UK
The
they
thing,
can.
the thing with capitalists is they see it as like a one-day cycle thing. The situation doesn't end after the first cycle of capitalism. It keeps going. Businesses fail and businesses grow. They conquer and expand and form monopolies. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked with capitalism.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but that's just part of the cycle, and the monopoly will fall. We can see it with Disney, for example. Now they're imploding.
Disney will not fall.
Well, they're imploding right now. They've lost huge amounts of money.
They've lost billions.
Yeah, but they will weather the storm.
They will.
The richest.
Yeah,
owners
but there will be some companies like
the
Sony.
The
that
owners
can
of
come up.
the owners of Disney will be absolutely fine. They will keep their money. They will
So
not lose
the
anything.
thing is, Disney is a really interesting case because they have such a monopoly over the entertainment industry on their own. No matter how much they screw themselves over, they will have something to fall back on. Star Wars is currently what they're falling back on. As that's the only thing people are enjoying out of them, because people have a hatred for their Disney shows, and the Marvel right now is really bad. They're being saved by Star Wars. They have such a monopoly that no matter what, nothing will kill
The
them.
thing is, even if they're you see they're like losing money on recent movies, that doesn't matter.
It is
they can
pocket
keep
change
going.
to them.
Well, I mean, they could just be establishing more control. They could be just
How come Fox lost all their money and had to sell out?
who
If Fox,
they have a monopoly.
they were part of the monopoly.
Are you do you mean the crash of the X-Men, which forced them to sell back to Disney?
Yeah.
That is a very interesting case because that was simply down to Fox thinking they were bigger than they were, and they overestimated what they
Well, I
could
believe
do.
Disney's doing that right now. You can see it.
Except Disney has been around much longer. They control the copyright laws, which is a really interesting take to have. Because take Steamboat Willie, he has recently become the public domain.
He's my profile picture on Twitter now.
Yeah, but you can do that because he's become public domain. But originally, public domain was just as the greatest lifespan. But Disney has lobbied and changed laws to keep Mickey Mouse as long as they can. And that's the point. That's how much they just have control, is they can just change laws. They know how to do it. They've been around so long, they've done
Well, they've
so
obviously
much.
failed recently, haven't they? Because Steamboat Willie is now public domain.
But that's because they had finally... But
It's
Steamboat...
because they don't really care anymore.
But what
I mean,
I'd like to point
Steamboat
out-
Willie is now irrelevant.
It shouldn't have been Steamboat Willie. Mickey Mouse in his entirety was supposed to become public domain. They were able to control it. They just lost one they didn't care
Oh
about.
no, we lost a Mickey Mouse. What we're going to do? Our whole business is going to collapse now.
But that's like when Winnie the Pooh became public domain. Immediately, 3 horror films happened. Disney has such control that I don't believe that there's no way to really get rid of them. Do you believe that Disney doesn't have that control and it's all just pompous marketing?
Well, to some extent they do have control, but when it comes down to it, if another company, you do have the right to set up your own company. If another company comes
How are you
around,
supposed to compete with Disney?
make a better film.
You can't. No, it's not. The quality of the films at this point.
How did
wouldn't
Disney
matter.
rise to begin
Okay,
with?
I'm going to step in because I'm a filmmaker.
Because,
I'm
because
going
that was the start of the film era. That was when it was first kicking off.
Can
Well, then evolve, create a new era.
I'm actually
You
going
can't do that.
I'm actually going to step in because I do film. This is literally my career. This is what I choose to do. I'm actually relatively more qualified than you two to talk about this. Disney has a monopoly. They have all the money they could ever need to make any film imaginable. They do. It's simply a fact. But for me, as a small filmmaker, I can make brilliant stories. I can come up with brilliant ideas. But I will never have the money to create them how I wish them to
Exactly. It required to start a film
you
company.
but you don't deserve the money then because you've not made the money. Disney's made the money. Their families had it in then for a long time.
No,
they deserve to have it. They
Money
deserve to have
makes
that
money
ability.
in this system.
Dis-
There's nothing you can.
Disney and the other larger corporations have such control where you have to rely on the public to fund you. But
You need massive early investments to make a movie.
yeah, for instance, I'm currently working on a TV show pilot and I'm collecting animators. I cannot afford to pay these animators what they deserve. So I'm trying to find some that are willing to do this, one for their portfolio, and on the hopes that something like Disney or Fox will watch this and go, I would like to pick that up and fund this project. That is the current world of filmmaking and TV. You have to find the money to make it on your own. and then a big corporation will go, we like what you got, and then they will then fund you from then on.
Just try and get into a new market. That's what Disney did originally.
There are no new markets. They're everywhere.
Well, AI, for example, but the talkies were a new thing back in the day. Disney managed to make one of the first animated talkies, which was Steamboat Willie. Thus, it did well because people watched it. They said, "You're creative. You don't have the budget of these big studios, but you know what? We're going to watch it. We're going to give you our money."
You can only a big business can only form once a new thing starts.
Then don't do it in the film market. Don't do it in
has
film.
plateaued. Film has reached a point.
So if you want to form your own business, you go, oh, okay, maybe I won't do it in film. I'll try and make my new thing. Well, those big businesses, they're wary of that. They realise that if you innovate and find a new way of developing some future technology like AI or something, that they're going to try and combat that because that goes against their profit.
How come Google managed to start up really quickly in the 2000s, late 90s, and they managed to become a massive company? Exactly. So AI starting now, and companies like OpenAI have capitalised on it. They're small, relatively small companies. They've got funding from Microsoft. They've impressed Microsoft, and now they're exploding.
They've got funding from Microsoft. That means they're getting influenced by Microsoft.
Yeah, they are, but
they're going to be under Microsoft's wing.
But they're still making their money. They're still making money.
They could not have accomplished that without the external support.
But Microsoft is still bigger than OpenAI.
But the founder still has got some level of control. Microsoft hasn't completely bought out the company. They've got
what happens if he gets old and he's like, oh no, I don't care anymore.
Well, that's his right to sell it.
To Microsoft.
Yeah, this is
right.
And
then Microsoft gets bigger.
This is a really interesting debate because AI has entered politics in a very explosive way. It's where do you stand on AI art? For instance, I have many artist friends, and their opinions on it is very clear. AI art is horrific and it should not be a thing.
They're going to cry about it because they are making art, but it should be about evolution. I mean, did people think that photographs would kill the art industry? Yeah, but people want the human touch. AI is going to benefit people, for example, like me. I make short format videos. I want to get cheap art, and you guys are crying about how much effort it is
I'm
to
not
make
crying
art.
about it.
Not you. I'm talking about artists in general. But bam in the face.
Okay, but here's an interesting point. There's a story of so I believe it was Picasso. He was in France and he was having coffee, and a fan came up and asked him to draw something on a napkin, and he drew it, and she asked how much, and he said 400,000 francs or whatever. She was like, for 5 minutes. But this is the best quote is, that was not 5 minutes. That was my entire life.
Yeah, but I can get it from an AI now, I shouldn't have to.
But Ben, this is the point that most artists are making.
There is
AI has taken their life and made it worthless, and it's not fair that they.
Well, it's fair.
Then there's more value in a piece of work than the actual work itself.
No,
it's
because
the work that's done into it that makes it valuable.
No, but I want to make a video. I don't need big meaning in the art. If an AI can give me cheaper art, and I don't have to go to somebody.
If you made it cheaply, then it's going to be cheap.
The reason the AI can make cheap art is because it is
work.
theft. AI cannot produce art on its own. It requires inspiration, and it does not credit the artists who've got the inspiration. That's why artists have an issue.
Well,
with
where did the artists get their inspiration from? Looking at other artworks. So exactly the same thing as what we're doing with AI. We're feeding them more artworks, and you know what? You're going to cry about it because you are obviously doing worse than the AI.
That's a really interesting perspective to have. Why do you believe that it's not okay for humans to gain inspiration, but it's okay? So, like humans, we gain inspiration from our everyday lives. Our existence, in this room, is inspiration.
An AI doesn't. I mean,
it doesn't gain inspiration; it just steals.
But that's what humans do. Because if I was going to paint a wall, I'd steal what a wall looks like. Look, I've looked at that. I'm going to paint it.
Yeah, but you actually have emotions, though. AI doesn't have that.
I don't care. I don't care. I quite frankly do not care.
No, you specifically don't have emotions, but most of us have emotions.
I have emotions.
We take those into
I do not care that a piece of artwork's got emotion in it or not.
AI just takes images and uses that to influence, but we have a whole world to influence. We have a 3D world that we touch and interact with that influences us.
Yeah, but we're still getting influence when it comes down to it. And if the AI makes me a good piece of art, I don't care if it's human or not. And I think artists maybe go into a different market because obviously AI will blow up this one.
Okay, but here's a question. This has been most artists' entire life. Like you have to dedicate your life from the age of 3 to become a real artist. Are you saying these 30-year-old artists who spent their lives dedicating themselves to this craft that they enjoy and they have found purpose in, and now AI's come along to do it for them? Are you saying that they should just give up on everything they've ever worked for?
Well,
their life has just become meaningless?
They should go into another industry.
What industry would they have left? Because if AI can do it for them, then there's no. Then what can they do?
Capitalism is a tough system often, but you've got to don't laugh at this. It's a serious point, but you've got to be able to evolve, and this is what the likes of Disney have done, the likes of Microsoft.
Why don't we evolve the system then?
Don't, because it's worked for us since the 1800s.
Yeah,
Why
just
change
because
it?
it's worked before doesn't mean it's always
When has socialism ever worked?
you were going to get this.
Let's go to Stalin. That's a great case study of socialism, isn't it now, Oscar?
What, do you say socialism never works? Is that
Well,
that
it's
your
not worked yet, and capitalism has worked for around 200 years.
Okay,
so
here's a question. Remember, capitalism has also crippled many countries. It has also killed so many people. So is that
socialism.
justifying its? Is that justifying its success? Are you saying its success has completely outweighed the negatives it's ever
Well,
had?
look at our quality of life. We're sitting here now with 2 computers, with a microphone, with several phones.
Oh, here we go. Oh, you're using stuff in a capitalist country. Oh, you must be a capitalist then.
No, I'm not saying that. Well, look how much we've evolved since feudalism. Capitalism has been very, very good for humanity.
Yeah, it is very good. It's very efficient at extracting wealth. That's what it does.
Okay, I'd like to make this point. Ben, how much did you spend on your phone?
Probably a few thousands.
Would you like to know how much it actually cost to produce that phone in China and
A
India?
lot cheaper.
It cost them £15.
And they've got the right to charge more for the phone because obviously people are paying it. So I can't really tell Apple. I think it's Mark Jobs or something. I don't know. But
Steve Wozniak.
Steve Jobs.
Wozniak
Steve
was
Jobs.
The other one.
I can't tell Steve Jobs how much he wants to charge.
It's Tim Cook now, isn't it? It's Tim Cook.
I can't tell Tim Cook how much he wants to charge for his phones. It's his right.
No, but that's something I'd like to make. So in these countries that
He's
they're making
charging
these
more than it's worth.
in
that's fair.
these countries that they're being made in India and China, which shows the state of those 2 countries, it is cost roughly £15 in assembly and materials. Like that's in total production cost. That's not including transport. If we're including transport, it's going to be about 100 at most, assuming he's shipping one at a time, which he'd never do. But so that markup, so £1,000 to £15 to 1,000, that's like literally 1,000,000% markup. Not quite, but so you saying he's completely justified in exploiting these people to make something for £15 and then sell it to you for 1,000? You're saying he's completely justified in that?
Let's change the word there because it's not exploitation when you're being paid and you've signed a contract to me and you should be able to do that. Well,
Have you heard of neo-slavery? Yeah.
Well, it's a
As long as we pay you a little tiny amount so you can buy a little food each week, you're fine.
Socialists tend to be some of the few people who talk about neo-slavery. So,
But here's something. Well, here's an interesting
because we
point.
realise it's
an
a whole thing.
ideological tool.
Here's a point. Most people in China, India, a lot of people, especially now in the cost of living crisis, are having to choose between rent and eating. Are you saying that's a good thing that capitalism's done that?
No, it's not a good thing.
Well, you're saying they should. Oh, the free market. Oh, maybe they should sell their houses.
Both India and China have only just got capitalism. It was like that in the UK. We evolved through it. Sadly, people are going to have to suffer to get through capitalism. Stalin said that about communism, who's your hero probably.
He's not. I hate Stalin. Yeah, I don't know why you assume that.
Ben, you better not bring up Stalin as someone else's hero.
He's not my hero. I hate
speak
Stalin.
a word about that.
But basically, India and China both have come from a socialist society. They're developing into a capitalist state as we speak.
So you're suggesting these are just growing pains?
It's horrendous, but sadly it will happen if you're growing. Even if it was socialism, this would happen.
So are you saying that this capitalism specifically is worth the pain?
It is, because future generations in India, in China, in all these countries will live in relatively wonderful circumstances. It will be like it is here, if not better.
On that point, I would like to call us to have a 15-minute break. And we're back. Okay, so what we're about to do is I'm about to give them quick-fire names/questions, and they're going to give me one-word answers to this name/question.
And the questions usually go on the form of what's your opinion on or how's this.
What's your opinion on YouTube for kids?
I have to do it in one word.
Yeah.
Oh, that's difficult. Cringe.
What's your opinion on YouTube for kids?
Pedophiles.
Okay. What's your opinion on Rishi Sunak?
The first word that came to my head was based, but I don't know why that came to my head.
Stop robbing me.
What would? Nonsense.
Mine is he gets pegged by his millionaire wife.
That wasn't one word.
As if you just don't put spaces in it.
It's just dashes.
What's my word? Goat.
Okay, I'm gonna cut my sentence out there, but that was bad.
Okay.
I think goat.
Okay, Ben, Andrew Tate.
Childish.
Ben, what the fuck? Okay, Oscar, Andrew Tate.
Dick.
He does have a no.
Okay, Andrew Waller.
Who?
Okay,
I
skip
don't know
him,
Andrew
skip-
Waller. Is he American or something?
Yeah, he's an American. Okay, we'll skip him. Donald Trump.
Schmuck.
Orange.
Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
Lazy.
Impudent.
Elderly, we should have said.
Yeah, we should have said elderly.
Okay,
Sorry about the
Microsoft.
T.
Who?
Microsoft. Opinion on Microsoft.
Snazzy.
Google. I mean, Google's better. When I think of Microsoft, I think of Google. I've got a little Chromebook here. I don't have a Microsoft.
I do like Chromebooks.
netbook.
They're great ideas, just the execution.
I hate Microsoft
Right,
so much.
Get some like I
I
don't
think
know, wartime questions.
Oh, wartime questions. Do you think?
Let's do some yes no questions.
Okay. Do you think Hitler could have won World War Two?
No.
Yes.
Do you
But
think?
like later, can we do more explanation to that? But
Yes, of
no,
course.
continue.
Do you think that the USSR would have won an actual war with America during the time of the Cold War?
No.
Yes.
Oh, should we jump straight to this wartime question? Because I think you two are.
So we got two questions. We got the
World War
would,
Two.
would Germany win World War Two, and would USSR win?
Let's
the
go.
war
Let's
against
go.
the
Let's go.
United
Let's
States?
start. Let's take this in chronological order. Let's start World War Two. Why do you think Hitler? When do you think Hitler could have won World War Two?
If Hitler had hunkered down in Norway and had actually put effort into getting the oil from there, did they know about North Sea oil at the time? I don't think so. But if he'd gone for the Caucasus more directly and didn't get Britain involved, he could have defeated.
I thought he was going to mention how Hitler was like 3 weeks away from nukes. That's what I thought.
Also, yeah, he was
I don't
also.
believe that, but yeah.
I don't.
Well, that's what
I don't know if
historians
he-
have kind of come out and said.
I don't know if he was because we can't really confirm how well
I
they would
don't
have done in 3 weeks.
Well, okay. So my job is just to spout the idea. So historians have generally accepted that Hitler was roughly 3 weeks away, or was it 3? Was he 3
Can we
weeks?
check that though, just to be
Yeah,
sure?
it was some amount of time. It was like 3 weeks to 2 months or something like that. That he believed he would have figured out nuclear warheads. That's the belief.
Hitler was developing the atomic bomb.
He was, but how close was he at the end of the war? Because I know it's some short amount of time.
It doesn't say how close was Germany to the bomb. They could have possibly built the atomic bomb, possibly on time for Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
At which point?
That's about May. Isn't
That's
it?
about 6 months, isn't it?
Oh well, then in that case I'm wrong. My apologies. So what's your rebuttal to his points?
What did he say?
Also, if he basically didn't get Soviet Union, Britain involved, yeah.
If he did what?
If he didn't get the Soviet
Didn't
Union or
invade-
Britannia involved,
He's saying he
could
didn't
won
invade the
World War
Soviet Union.
If he didn't go for either of them, or he got the Caucasus quicker, he could have won.
I'd say if he didn't invade the Soviet Union, I don't think that's a realistic scenario. I think because it was his goal from the very beginning.
Yeah, he was obsessed with communists.
He was obsessed with invading the Soviet
but
Union. I don't
say
think-
he had waited to invade the USSR. Say
I'd say that would make it worse.
Really?
Because the USSR was building. I mean, despite what Stalin did, they were preparing in a way to build up. They were recovering from the purge. They were building up the military. I mean, rather ironically, they predicted the Soviet Union would be ready for a war with Germany by 1945.
well,
So
yeah.
I mean, that took that well, didn't it?
If they'd done something with Japan, if they orchestrated it with Japan, and the Soviets were being attacked on 2 flanks, there could have been a shot.
I'd say they still lose.
I say they'd win.
I
And
think-
Hitler dashes for the Caucasus to get oil.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible for you to get those oil rigs up and running. I mean, you know the Soviet tactics is burn and run, by the way.
Yeah,
They would have
But
destroyed
also here's a
everything.
question.
They would have made it as unusable as possible.
But here's the question: even if, say, they had not had the chance to burn it, and like Japan and Germany had two-fronted and fought through the Russian winter,
I mean,
would they have even had enough people to get the oil rigs up and running and then fight the war at the same time?
Well, they
I'm
would
going
have gotten the
to be as
civilians.
bold to say is that even if the Germans reached Moscow, the Soviets still wouldn't have given up.
Well, they were set on fire.
They wouldn't have collapsed. The Soviets would still fought on. They would have still gone on.
Well,
as
and
long as
also
they could.
there is the question of the Russian winter, because that is a big factor in what pushed the Germans out. Well, that's what pushed Napoleon.
If they'd managed to properly capitalise on Stalin's sort of, what should we call it, when he was having a bit of a breakdown as soon as he realised that his hero Hitler had betrayed him. If they'd managed to get a bit more, we're talking like miles, as they were something like 20 miles away from Moscow, right? So if they'd got something like, 10, 20 more miles, they could have won. Because as soon as Moscow's caught, realistically, what are the troops going to do? Go into Siberia? They've not got the facilities
No,
there
I'd say
to
that-
keep an army.
They would have fought on. They would have. I mean,
Yeah,
if
but
you
they
look-
wouldn't have the facilities, would they? Because the Soviets.
Well, so compare Germany and the Soviet Union, right? They're both totalitarian, massive regimes. The Germans, in reality, they defended out until the very last. They kept on fighting even after Berlin
so it's
fell.
very safe
Yeah,
to
but
assume
Hitler
that
was
Russia-
stopping them from even tactically retreating. He was involved
Exactly,
with the
he
strategy
was-
making decision. If they put proper generals, not like Hermann Goering in charge of the Luftwaffe, if they had put not a bunch of clowns in charge of it,
I
they
don't
could have
think that's
done it.
realistic because a bunch of clowns is the Nazis.
Yeah,
You're
but
not
they
going to
could-
get
they
anyone
could-
else.
what Stalin- yeah, but
who are you
Stalin-
going to employ? You're going to employ some communists in your gang, good generals. I mean, do you want to get Georgy Zhukov as a general of the German Luftwaffe? Well, that's never going to work.
No, they
because
wanted Michael, obviously.
They wanted the Nazis in rule of their German
I will
command
say-
because
What I will say is Stalin initially was like the Nazis. He was firing generals willy-nilly, but he learned that he couldn't be in charge of the generals, all by, he couldn't do the war effort all by himself. He had to let the generals do their thing or they wouldn't win. And Stalin, guess what? He won because he let the generals do their thing. If Hitler hadn't decided to put all his mates in charge and then actually...
that
let
doesn't
them
work because there were times when Hitler was right in the war, and I mean it's kind of funny to say, and his generals were wrong.
Yeah, but that was less often.
Although it doesn't matter, it's not a big enough difference to make.
Was it
him win
not
the
for
war.
crucial battles that he was correct for?
The truth is that Germany is fighting against the Soviet Union, Great Britain, the British
Yeah, but
Empire,
his generals-
and the United States.
Hitler's generals weren't even qualified because
They're outnumbered in manpower, steel production, bullets, everything. Everything they're outnumbered. There's no chance they win.
But if they'd worked with Japan properly and Japan
Didn't have enough resources. They had nothing. Their victories were
Well, they
based
could
on...
have shock attacked the Soviet Union. 2 flanks. A war on 2 flanks. What does that remind you of?
Japan would not have realistically attacked the Soviet Union. They were on a southern focus. They were attacking China. They had a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. They weren't about to betray that. They didn't want another flank in Manchuria.
Okay. I think with that lovely note, I
Sweet.
believe we should move on to the USSR versus America.
And I said no.
They've both
Yes.
got the atomic bomb. So yeah,
Russia had more nuclear warheads by the end of the USSR.
doesn't really matter if you've got enough nukes to fire it at two cities.
It's important before we complete this. I thought you said after World War Two.
Oh, I said Cold War USSR versus America.
Oh, I don't know if we can probably check this later, but I thought you said immediately after World War Two. But
We could do both. I thought I said USSR. but
I'd say in the case after World War Two, there's no shot that the Soviet Union wins.
Oh
But
no!
Yeah, because the Americans have a nuke.
in the case of the Cold War, I'd say, I mean, Cold War, nobody wins, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying say we had Cold War Russia versus Cold War. So let's take the height of Cold War America, height of Cold War Russia, and they actually started a war. Who do you believe would win? Not including allies or anything like that. Let's just
Wait, there's no allies. Oh,
let's just stick it
Soviets.
America versus Russia.
If it's literally just that, then I'd say probably the Soviets.
Because America's got to have their Britons, their Frances, their little proxy
I mean,
colonies.
if you can really class that as a win, I mean, both sides are getting nuked to oblivion. But
Yeah. But say we do start including allies, so that means America has England, France, and all that lot. So where do you stand if America and
If
Russia
we're including
start being
allies,
allies?
I mean, that's a
I think
massive
so.
question.
That's
'Cause then- 'cause
a
then the Soviet-
world-ending conflict.
Because then the Soviet Union gets China on their side as well,
That's
and that's
true.
that's just
That is-
world
It
ending.
depends on the era because there were parts of the Cold War where China was more America friendly. Let's say.
Well, yeah,
Because
towards
they
the
had
That is a
border
point.
wars.
But
They
I'm
had
talking
literal
peak of
wars
Cold.
over this.
I'm talking peak of Cold Wars. This is height of tensions.
before so Stalin's in power before the Sino-Soviet
Stalin's
split.
just got in power. They're at their peaks of both. Both are at peak.
If we're talking before the Sino-Soviet split, I think it's close.
That's peak of communist influence around the world as well as American influence. That it's just a mess. I mean,
I think
that's the Cold War. It's the Cold War. I mean, if it goes off, it's just death.
I think if it's Stalin in charge, as you say, I think the Soviets have just about got it because they can go a bit further with their populations. They don't have as much human rights abuses. If we're both going in, I don't think actually it's a victory though because we'll both be nuked to oblivion. So
There's nobody left.
Shall we get back to politics? We've had our fun with our history
We do some more
debates.
quickfire questions.
Oh, you want some more quickfire questions? Oh, cool, fun. Okay. Oh, now I'm gonna think of some.
Do you want to start with Ben this time?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with Benny. Monarchy, need it or lose it?
lose it.
Monarchy. Okay. Export of food, good or bad?
Export food.
Do you think we export enough food, or too much food?
Well, we don't have any food in our borders, so no, we should keep it.
Okay.
I'd say export the excess.
But we don't have any.
Well, I mean,
Because we're importing too much.
I'm not suggesting we
Okay,
have.
Ben, immigration.
Good thing.
Let's get
And
immigration. Refugees.
Let them in.
Refugees.
Take in every refugee, all of them, every single one.
Can different ideologies work together?
Yeah.
No.
Well, they did in World War Two because Labour and
Oh, do you
Conservatives.
mean as in
I'm
different
ta- I'm-
countries
I'm-
and ideologies? or...
Yeah, I'm talking. Say we take. I'm thinking. So we take Labour and the Tories,
What happened?
and we put them both in power. at the
Well, it
same
did
time.
happen in
And
World
they
War
have to- They have to
Two.
work
So-
together.
In the post-war era, the post-war consensus, both sides mutually agreed, but that was probably more because
very
During
different.
during
That's-
the war, they did work together.
That-
It was
I would-
a
that's-
bipartisan.
as both of
government.
them.
I'm not
But that was
asking.
mainly
I'm not
because-
asking in a post-war scenario because we're talking. Everyone's like just scrambling for survival. I'm talking. Say, take modern England. We take the Tories. We take the Labour, and we force them to work together.
Yeah, they're not
Do you
too
believe that?
dissimilar.
No, they're not going to work.
They're not too dissimilar. They could settle their differences.
What? So why do you say they wouldn't work at all? Because Ben clearly quite fundamentally disagrees that they could work together. Why do you personally believe they couldn't do it?
I'd say they both have their own large enough majorities. They'd feel that they could work independently of each other. They wouldn't necessarily try to agree on things because they know they can get away with not agreeing on it.
Okay.
Well, the Conservatives and Labour both agree on most things. What they disagree on is mainly just balance issues. How much money are you going to put into education? So they're pretty similar. It's just talking about the little issues. That's the
Okay, well,
difference.
education's a very big topic. We are all just out of secondary school into college. So, what are your guys' opinions on education in England, and what is its flaws? What are the good aspects of it, and what would you change? Let's start with you, Ben.
Call me a full-blown communist, but I don't like private schooling. I think that education should be a level playing field. And I know I'm usually more free markets, but I think if we're going to set up a proper capitalist society, we need to do it so that everyone's got the same info in their head, the same sort of levels, and then we can go grab each other's necks so you can be the best.
So Ben, do you agree with the idea that if we abolish private schools and forced these rich kids to go to normal schools, do you believe that the rich parents would then just fund normal schools for everyone? Do you believe that would happen and that's a good idea?
I don't think it would, but it would level the playing field. It would make it so that...
So you would believe it would create that equal of opportunity that everyone desires?
Yeah, and that would mean that somebody could create the next big idea. They could create the next Twitter, the next YouTube.
Don't think we need more Twitters.
Don't think we need Twitter or YouTube.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What about you, Oscar?
In terms of education, I mean, same thing really. I think you can't have private schools really. You just can't. And some private schools even have easier GCSEs. They're called,
That's horrible.
yeah, they have. I think they're called IGCSEs, international GCSEs.
Where do you stand on this proven study that basically proved that if you did your GCSEs in a private school, you had an automatic bump to your scores versus if you did a public school, you had an automatic downgrade?
Well, again, what the heck? I mean, you're just paying someone to have better grades. I mean, where's the competition in that?
It's just unfair. You shouldn't wimp out. It should be a level playing field. I don't want to bring in Formula One because that's sport, but there's a cost cap in Formula One. All the teams can't spend above a certain amount. That should be education. Afterwards, let's go try and climb up the pole. Get your gloves off. See who can climb to the top. Let's be full on greedy. But at the beginning,
level playing field.
At the beginning, level playing field. And see who wins.
At the beginning.
So,
that's
are
like
you
from
guys
the-
saying that the president's private schools does nothing but create nepotism babies?
Yep.
Yep.
It's very. I'm glad you guys actually managed to agree on something.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like you've done a complete ideological shift there.
No, I haven't,
everyone to
because
be a
I
level
believe
playing
that
field.
because I believe that will make a better capitalist society.
Well, there's still the inherent problems.
Yeah, but it would even it out slightly. It would be
Slightly.
Let's admit
Is that enough?
they'll still have a lot of money in families being passed down through generations. Maybe you could talk about. I'm going to hate myself, but maybe you could talk about less inheritance so that we
Ben,
could have.
where do you stand on inheritance tax? Where if you get an inheritance that is not in a what's it called? If you have an inheritance, you are immediately taxed on where that is. Say you have a $2 million house given to you by a dead relative, then you pay the tax on that, which is roughly 40%. Whereas if you put it in a trust, you'll not be taxed at all because it's left with you and you technically owned it while they were alive.
A month ago, I'd hate it. I'd love it. But nowadays, you know what? We want capitalism to be a good system. If we're going to make it work, we need to make it so that everyone has got a relatively evil pegging to begin with, because it should be the best of the best, get the best jobs and the best businesses. And quite frankly, if you're passing your business down to your little kid, that's not the best person to run it. It should be the true cutting edge of business should be at the top. Not just
So Ben, where do you stand on these new government like placements where
Wait,
you
can I-
have?
can I-
Oh, you want to? Yes, you can.
So what was it? Your stance on inheritance?
Yeah.
So I'm not really in favour of any hereditary titles, privileges, or wealth. So no, I'd lean more to abolishing inheritance than preserving it.
But what the question I asked was, would you prefer trust or would you prefer where you have inheritance but you were taxed on it? So say you have a $2 million house, you were taxed 40% of $2 million, so you have to pay X. I won't do 2 million, 40% 2 million in my head.
Well, again, abolish inheritance.
So just no inheritance at all. So just when you die, no one gets anything you have.
No.
Oh, so you die with everything you have, basically. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, no. Your stuff is redistributed in society.
Oh, okay. So in the event you have found everything. So say you have a $2 million house, you have furniture, you have family mementos and stuff. Are you saying that all just gets distributed across society?
Yeah.
Would you allow exceptions for sentimental items such as?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they're not private property. They're personal property.
Oh, so you're saying anything deemed private property, say say the house, the stuff like that. You're saying that's what you
Exactly. Stuff that can generate
So if
wealth.
I've got a little kid and I've got this tea mug, this what's it called, My Little Pony tea mug, and I want to pass it down to my kid, I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to pass the family Peppa Pig.
because it's a
Yeah.
personal item.
It's a personal item.
Well, in that case, the family house, which is worth $6 million, is very personal.
I don't feel very
No.
safe. I don't feel very safe with the government doing this. So I'm a bit conflicted on inheritance. Like, I want a level pegging field, but I do not want to give the government more power than they already have.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily give the central government more power. It might be delegated to local authorities.
Oh, so you're saying, so you take the local representative, and they would come down, they'd figure out what to do with everything. So
And
they
you could have like a
they could tear down the house, build something new, or they could just
if
keep
you wanted
it.
to, if it was like a large amount of inheritance, it was a bit controversial. You could have a large communal assembly that would meet and regulate and decide, like just people around the area really
That's
decide.
dictatorship of the majority of them.
So here's a question. Say I died.
I don't know, I'm feeling
so
conflicted.
say I had died with 500,000 in my bank account. Are you saying my family wouldn't get that, but the local government would then be granted that 500,000?
I don't like it being given to a government.
Is
It's
that kind of what you're suggesting? in an oversimplification. Is that
Wait,
kind
what
of
was that again?
So say I die with 500,000 in my bank account. Are you suggesting instead of that going to my family, it goes to the local government for stuff? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Very interesting. It's a very like hard stance to take. Why? So you believe that is the superior option to then say me giving that 500,000 across my 8 relatives?
Well, yeah.
Where do you stand on this, Ben?
I'm uneasy about it because I don't massively like, big family empires, but I'm not sure that I want to give the money to the government. I don't trust governments at all.
So
But again, it's not. My version of an ideal government is a lot different to what you're imagining, I assume.
I'm imagining Stalin.
Yeah, I'm not imagining Stalin. I'm not imagining Stalin.
So Ben, I take it you are very much against the Rothschilds.
I don't particularly like them because it's just.
Well, they own everything.
It's a monopoly. It's not based on talent. It's based on. I don't know who set up their family wealth, but it's based on their talent.
So the ancestors of the Rothschilds, basically, they became rich nobles and they then bought up everything, and they then inbred and became the Rothschilds we know now, which own everything and have billions that they just don't even touch.
So it's based on one person's talent from thousands of years ago.
Yeah, from a few hundred years ago, yeah, and they are one of the public families that own everything. We don't know every family that owns everything. They're just the public one.
I mean, I'm uneasy about the idea that you can just pass down wealth to your family members because that would make monopoly. And if I'm honest, I don't particularly like monopoly and capitalism. Capitalism is best when everyone's fighting for the top. Everyone's pulling themselves up by these shoelaces, the shoe straps. Don't know what the term is, but
Yeah, but if you have a better pair of boots than somebody else, then
you can jump higher. So
if you're given it by someone else, then it's not fair enough.
I think you should be given it by yourself. And
I love that you're
You can
using
give
a
it to
boot
yourself.
analogy. I find it hilarious because I have work boots that I use and the cheap ones.
I mean, if
pretty
you're given
good.
sandals and you have to climb a mountain, or if you're given boots, obviously the guy in boots is going to do better.
Yeah. Ben looks like he's having an aneurysm. Okay. So you are fundamentally against all these things.
I believe capitalism is at its best when there is equal opportunity for success. I do not particularly like the fact that a family can just pass down wealth.
Do you think that England in particular can ever return to that ideal state of capitalism?
Nope.
Oh, you think there's no chance for England to return to that ever?
Because there's vested interests in government. So
Well, in that case, Oscar makes a point of socialism. So you're saying England can never return to your perfect version of capitalism?
yeah, but socialism's
So
worse than this version of capitalism.
would you like to?
No, it isn't. What's your point for the isn't, for its worth?
Because you're giving, by definition, you're giving control of society to a higher governing body.
That's not what the definition of
I
socialism is.
thought socialism.
You
Correct
just
me if
got-
I'm
that's-
wrong.
that's a
Yeah,
common-
but collective means ownership of the means of production.
It's a common mistake.
It's tyranny of the majority. You don't want that. It's rubbish.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought socialism was everyone was equals and then everyone owned everything. So there was no leading government and there was just individual. Everyone
That's
would
a
get
government. That's a
common-
government.
Common ownership of the means of production.
Yeah.
That's a government without using the word government.
I thought government was elected individuals that would represent the entirety of the nation would then decide for everyone.
Well, it's by.
Versus having everyone.
Well, you're going to have to come up with an agreement, which is going to mean you're going to create a form of government. Maybe it will be a bigger government with everyone involved. It will be direct democracy.
Would that not be better though?
Tyranny of the majority. I want to do
You
what
can
I
always
want.
bring that up, but what's the point? Like,
Please
what's-
explain
what's-
with tyranny.
My
of
point
majority.
is that I try and get rid of as much of a country as possible. I want to do my own thing. I want to set up my own country. I am, as many libertarians point out, I should be my own country. No one else should be able to tell me what I can do. That I've got to do. Go to war. I should be able to do what I want with my body.
I can see many issues with that.
And I should be able to do what I want. There's the non-aggression pact. It would stop you from
but then,
killing each other.
I mean, a common libertarian argument, I do whatever I want with my body, but then, you get right libertarians who absolutely hate abortion.
I'm fine with it.
So
If you
but
wanna
Ben,
do that,
so
do that.
so is your problem with having that majority government? Is your problem like the government like everyone agreeing with something that you personally agree with. So say take the LGBT community. It's a very hot topic right now. But so
I would object to that word. Yeah.
no, but I'm just using them as examples. So I'm not saying you do, but say Ben say you didn't agree with that, and the majority said we should teach this. Is that your big issue with the idea of socialism? That you will fundamentally disagree with something the majority has agreed with? Is that your issue?
Yeah, I believe that I should be able to do what I like, and I don't want to be forced to do it by the majority. If everyone wants to go to war with Russia, as it seems like everyone does, I don't.
That's a fair rebuttal.
That's not a fair rebuttal, because that's not what socialism argues for. Socialism doesn't.
Well, by definition, you've got a government, and it's got to be a bigger government.
I didn't mention government.
Well, no. You did. You said you mentioned direct democracy, and that is a form of government.
I did mention direct democracy. I
you
said
mentioned direct democracy.
No, you said that everyone will own the means of production.
I said
an
common ownership of the means of production. I did not say common
how
ownership.
How are they going to decide what happens with it? Because no one agrees, do they?
Well, they vote on it.
Oh, so government! That's government! Tyranny of the majority! Back again!
Keep it down. Keep it down.
Ben, I think you're losing it here.
Well, you're losing.
I think we should change subjects.
Yeah.
Okay. What's kind of left on the agenda?
Well, you mentioned LGBTQ, so
do you want to go into that debate? Okay.
Okay.
Where do you stand on the LGBTQ plus community?
I think it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a natural extension of people's right to choose and choose to be these things?
I mean, I'm curious of your word "natural" there, because I think, in terms of all of humanity, I mean, is anything we do natural?
That's a good question.
I mean, we kind of broke nature.
We've built our own nature.
As soon as we began to talk, I mean, we've broken nature.
No, we didn't, because everything's natural. This mug's natural.
No, it's
that was not.
No, it is
that
natural because it came from nature.
What's it made of?
We got the equipment from nature and we made it together.
What's this made of?
This microphone.
Well, first off,
you're natural. You're natural.
Okay, so if everything we do is natural, then everything we do is allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
First off, Ben, you need to clean your mugs.
Yeah, I know. I've had that one for about a week. I don't wash my.
You shouldn't have drunk out of this.
I don't wash.
Ben, what's your opinion on the LGBT and all that?
I think you've got the right to do whatever you like. You've got the right to your own body. I do, and that's got the extension to them. Like I don't particularly like you being in your face about it. You've got the right to do so. I'm not going to stop you.
So are you a believer in do what you like as long as it's not hurting anybody and just don't put it in my face?
Yeah, but you are allowed to put it in my face. I'm not going to stop you, but I would rather you not.
Where do you stand on it being taught in schools and stuff? Do you agree with that as a fundamental, or do you think that should be up to the parents to individually explain to their kids?
It should be up to parents. It shouldn't be up to the schools. I don't really like giving big corporate bodies decision-making abilities.
Would you agree where it should be the parents should give the individual, like teach the children on their own instead of it being taught by schools?
What was that? Wait.
Like they can find it on the internet.
Basically,
anyway, so
the question I ask is: do you think the LGBT should be taught in schools directly, or whether the parents individually should teach the kids?
Taught schools.
Why? Ben fundamentally disagrees. He thinks it should be taught.
The parents could be opinionated, and it's just.
That's a very valid argument. How
but the government, by definition, you've got to have an opinion. There's no such thing as neutrality. So do you want government brainwashing or parents brainwashing?
So Ben, are you saying that you would rather everyone have individual lessons on their parents and everyone have completely different opinions
I'd rather
that can be
them find
completely
it
influenced
themselves.
by their parents and their own discoveries, or taught by a government who have one ideal and then everyone figures it out on their own as it goes on?
I'd rather it be your own discovery. If I'm not too keen about parents teaching it. It inevitably will happen no matter what, even if we do teach it in schools, because parents are going to weigh in with their opinions. But I don't really like government, and this extends past the LGBTQ issue. I don't really like governments putting their opinions into people. It reminds me of, I bring this up a lot, but communist China.
That's a very valid point. Both of you make very excellent points in regards to just your beliefs. And safety of children is the main priority whenever we discuss anything to do with education. Why are you shaking your head?
No.
Are you saying that safety of children is
It
not
was a
important?
joke, Jacob. It was a joke.
But safety of children is what's most important, especially when discussing something like that. So you both quite clearly believe that is in the interest of protecting the kids. So you believe that the parents teaching their children individually about
it's going to stop brainwashing.
Is much safer for the children, whereas you believe everyone taught the same thing in schools is much safer for the children. Is that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very valid points from both of you. Thank you for your opinions. Got to be very careful with that one.
I think none of us says anything really bad.
We didn't say anything phobic, which was nice.
Yeah, I genuinely was expecting Ben to say some slurs, so I'm not even lying.
Yeah.
What? I've always said that I'm fine with them. I've never.
Oh, Ben, I don't know about that.
I'm not.
We're going to cut this banter out.
I'm not a certain individual you're thinking of.
Sure, Benny. Anyway, what's next on kind of the agenda? Because what's left that we haven't discussed in mainstream media?
We've discussed everything political.
That's actually...
We've discussed a lot of recent.
Shall we end the
politics.
podcast then?
We could call it an end and just sit about for a while, or we could find something else.
Do one final point.
What's kind of left? What's left to be discussed in like the grand scheme of everything going on?
Conscription in the UK.
Oh, that's the point. The laws
Well-
have just been changed that where women at 18.
I guess so. We should just say view on the army.
Get in there! Women are going in the army. Yes. Woohoo!
Okay.
Screw you! Yahoo! Don't cut that out.
Okay.
Cut that out.
No, that's staying.
So the view of the army in general. What's
Okay. What is your view on that military?
I don't think anyone should be called up to the army, but I'm
Do you
not
agree with the concept of having an army?
not particularly.
Why?
Because, I mean, in the ideal world, you'd have your own individual way of defending yourself. I'd have a gun, and with that gun, I'd be able to defend my property, wouldn't I?
Okay.
And so if someone comes up to me, I
Okay,
do not
Ben,
need
that's
an
great,
army.
that's
I
great,
can
that's-
just shoot at them.
Stop. That's great. You.
Well, what if nobody has any guns?
Well, then
So
nobody attacks each
you're a
other.
believer in
Well, then
the
nobody
zero
attack-
military solution.
Nobody attacks us. So there's no
but-
problem.
Okay, well, here's a question. What about that one crazy person who's going to make a gun and start finding like-minded individuals? Is it
Well,
not safe for everyone to
I
have
mean-
some form of military to defend themselves in the event of that
Now,
one crazy
now we're
person?
getting into the issue of crime, and
That is a point.
I don't think crime is in any way natural. I think crime is very much caused by everyone's economic situation and how they grew up.
But there are.
So I think if those issues
But
are
are there not
solved-
But
some
crime
truly
would be
sick
solved if I had a
individuals?
gun, wouldn't it? I'd just be able
No,
to
you'd
go...
be causing crime.
Ben's a big fan of the Second
No,
Amendment.
I'd be able... we don't have one because we decided to give up our
I
guns
know,
to a
but
tyrannical
it's a
government.
joke, Ben. But so what about? Because I've met some truly cuckoo people. Are you saying that these truly insane people who may potentially try and do this? Are you saying that it will be solved if just no one had, if in this perfect society, would these crazy people not be crazy? Is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna say if
Because there are some truly sick individuals.
I'd have a
mean,
gun too.
if we focus on improving our system so that within an education system and within a healthcare system that we can pick up on these signs of insanity and
Help them. Is that
Help them, yeah, you
okay.
can-
Sounds like brainwashing a
What
little
is
brainwashing. What?
What?
Some guy's a bit depressed and you
Someone
want to pick
having
and
very
you wanna,
clear mental health issues.
somebody's in the corner of the classroom. They're really depressed. Maybe they might want some help. Nah, that's brainwashing.
I mean, if you put it like that, it's not brainwashing, but...
In that case, what is your opinion on prisons? Where do you stand on the whole prison
Bye-bye.
system? Oh
No
no
prisons.
No prisons.
No prisons. No
What about
prisons.
mental institutions?
So send them to give them a house and some money instead of a prison.
So you're
It's way
so
worse.
is it not Norway who has that system where you get sent to that island?
It's a good idea. Just don't.
Okay.
It's again rehabilitation rather than punishment.
Where do you
Don't
stand
punish.
on mental institutions?
I guess they're nice.
Try and be nice to the
they are
individuals
very,
in them.
They are very commonly compared to prisons. So would you change their systems at all, or would you just
Give
leave
them
them
more
as
funding, make them better.
Well, make it so they can what do you call it? It's not inmates when it's a
it's
hospital.
patients.
And the patient, make it so that the patients can have an actual good life and they're enjoying themselves. Don't make a prison.
Because that is a large issue that it seems to be stated with those who do get out of them is the conditions tend to be horrific.
We shouldn't lock people up for for having issues. That's just stupid.
What
They're not
about
criminals.
what about those who attempt to kill themselves and they need to be isolated so they cannot perform that act of killing themselves? Do you believe that we should, that as a government or as a people, we should intervene with those people or allow them to go through their life and choose their own choices, even if that choice would
I
happen
don't-
to be killing
I'd say
themselves?
they can make their own choice, but again, they shouldn't be forced into that situation in the first place.
Yes.
I think we should be. I think we should try and make it so that we've got a more supportive environment. They've got people around them who will look out for them, and hopefully, they won't come to that
But
conclusion.
say we are in this
Yeah, should we
idea.
wrap up a bit now?
Yeah, actually. So thank you all for listening, and we hope you will join us again. Bye bye.